Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba. This is the mystery font. Good evening. Good day, good evening. Good morning. Day turns into day overnight. Well, that's peculiar. I am going to move something in hopes that I might utilize it where I need to play it from. I hope you're doing well. This is one way things happen. Very strange. I wonder why that's happening. Day turns into day overnight. Day turns into day overnight. Thank you for being here. What is this place? It seems like it might maybe a nexus, a point where connection connects us. This may be gain. We may be game to prey. That's game as prey to predator today, unless prey we may be play. Good gray. Good gray. Good gray. Maybe this will come through where I need it to. Let's hope. Or else I'll have something else to do. Aha. Yeah, there's some kind of a technical issue happening. So I'm not going to do one, I think. I'm doing another. day overnight. Day turns into 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 day overnight. Day radio. Science brain. Radio science brain. From time to time, I share just the space of exploring things. And radio science brain is one way that I meander and find flow as an autist and as an artist and as a human being and a composer and a singer and a musician and other kinds of specialist. We all contain multitudes and myriads, yes, and those are frames through which I look, even if only somewhat. So this is somewhat radio science brain. It's different every time. It's potentially annoying and repetitive, but potentially comforting and repetitive. Or at least the substrate allows something, some kind of exploration that's beneficial enough that I make it past the annoying parts. I'm trying to do new things, and I find it helps to have something very simple and comforting to begin from. It's not an apology, it's just what is. Interesting. It is really quite... Really? You're not seeing it. Oh, right. We're good. We're good. I believe. Right. Yes. Now it is all making sense. It is all coming together. Slowly and surely. Retracing my steps to sort of where arrangements have been arranged. I think that works. That's a good way to do it. There we go. Good gray. Yes, well, the assembling. The assembling, it can be the assembling, certainly for me, of executive function. And golly, it's a bit. It's quite much. It's quite a lot much at times, just to really have executive function amidst a lot of very terroristic communication from extremists in politics right now. I think people trying to catastrophize and people trying to minimize, it's pretty intense. And so the way that that affects executive function, as we've been together in an abusive relationship with the former and disgraced president for about 8 years now, it's decimating to our individual and collective character. And I think we're not really cognizant of how much fabric has been emaciated between us, or as something that we all fell into that isn't necessarily personal, but is New Colossus, is community. It's a lot. It's a lot that's been hurt or is petrified or dormant or gone. And those of us who are still here, or those of us who may wake up, let us wake when the conditions around us are right and emerge in which we can emerge. Let's look at self-care. Let's look at being able to deliver the kind of kindness that we hold as being self-evidently humane. So say I. This is the font of mystery, 42 in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and once again sharing sometimes, as now, radio science brain or other mechanisms of unlocking creative freestyling or other kind of creative improvisatory space. And there's nothing like improvisatorizing, to really deal in on the improvisatory improvisation is so akin to play and requires play. And there is a fair amount of different kinds of wordplay or just lingual aperture and gesture and searching and throwing out half of a sentence before I know what the rest will be, and adaptation and problem solving and all of that, and certainly play. And it's so essential that we all have access to play. And I think it's good to make sure that there are examples of that kind of thing that exist that aren't like the norm of lowest common denominator culture. And I think it would be bizarre if everything was manicured, and if everything was pitch corrected, and if everything was edited, and if everything, when we have the availability in part to share a space that has catalytic potential and a different view on the bread baking, that sometimes you get to see the spark of heat that lights the fire, warms the oven, or you get to just feel like we're all the leavening. How do we meet each other halfway? Like, how do I meet someone halfway if we're on a cold, wintry, desolate road in the middle of the night? 30 minutes by car from anywhere warm or safe to stop. How do we show each other respect so that we are safe on the road? How in any moment in space and time do we show in another neighborhood when we happen upon one another or find a situation changes and what was that sound? Oh, a pipe burst, and now there's a huge ruckus and you're not getting sleep and you have to get up in 4 hours and it's intense, and how do we show up? Someone tries to harm you. How do we show up? How do we show up with kindness when someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene is using fighting words that provoke lynch mobs meant to do so? How do we maintain executive function so we can see those kinds of traps and intended whirlpools of disintegration so that those pool whirlers are visualizing world pools in ways that we can make out legibly? All right. I think where we're at then, I think the fontedness is appropriately distributed. It is good gray abound. Holy cats. Holy cats, it's good gray. It's good gray in here, I think. radio, science, brain is different every time, sometimes not by much. Radio, science, brain. Limina, radiate. Limina, radiate. Radio, science, brain. This is the mind made this contagious aim and focus activate. This is the capable aim came to place a hand on that focus and frame imagination aiming to aid contagious being. This is the mind mistakes, this is the mind wave break, imagination ache, radio science break, contain the activation of love's imagination ache, it's making place. This is the mind to save space. This is the pylon of Sion. Be nature, your creature apes make aid to activate. This is the science minds would liaise. This is the kindness came in case. This is the kindness came in space. Imagination ace. Imagination ace. Radio science brain mind main. Radio science brain mind main. Imagination aim might have a new game to program into the mainframe. Pretend that love is sane. Pretend that love is sane. Mind made this ace activate a new game. Pretend that love is sane. Amazing activation code germane. Radio science brain mind craving is saving. Fun is how we know we're on to something. We are one love, that is the one thing. Kindness bring the spring imaginationing. This is the kindness idea craving in freight. This is the mindness I deliberated is the kind of me I want to be in a time and place. I will let it occur without entropy. I will let it unfold in dark melody. Will be not half. It will be holistic. It will be that mystic. I will carry it. It is in space ballistic, but it's gentle music. Radio science brain, I refuse to abstain. gain imagination aim. From the mindness I find things kind, just and reveal them and unseal them and wave, let's heal them. Gray array kind, kneel with them. Imagination aim, imagination aim. Particle matter wave, now I likewise. Contagion, save space in a clarion. This is the mindness made myriad, made serious, wise, so period. Imagination aim can contain all space and all ideas, any application made. Radio science brain, particle matter wave, the human brain can contain. Relay synaptically liaise, this imagine it waits and it waits in us today. Pretend that love is sane, pretend that Cain can come, pretend that come just came. Mind maimed, this codec cantankerous angle, like angels could wrangle our pain and explain that it happened but need not happen again. Mindness made me explain. Radio science brain, you are the capital Ace, you are the time and place, and love can be maimed. You are the science sane. Yeah, that's one way to say it, I think. It's up to all of us. It's up to each of us. You are the scient. You are the sane. It's up to all of us. We have a duty within humanity to trust but verify. And what are we verifying? We're verifying the verity. We're verifying there is verity. We can trust that there is a common level we have measured together, that we have leveled with one another, so that we are not poised to be leveled or poised to level someone, that we're looking for union, that we're looking for kindness, that we are participants in a human experiment, not a human trap. That we are participants in the human experiment together, and that if any one of us is not free, no one is. That we take it as our mission to live up to what the American documents say they say. If we don't say them for them and with our actually made action and rhythm, and not just what feels like it's our underschism, what is the vision and what is the division from the action that makes it happen? Are we ourselves? Are we actually the America that we wear the jersey of? Because has it ever happened? Have we ever taken off the training wheels for the descendants of slave masters? It's It's really, really time to confront and disassemble whiteness so that people like myself have an easier time passing on culture that's germane and not only about hatred, but in fact is about birthing and learning forth and processing things like apartheid. Why would we let go of the chance to be the generation that actually opens up the conversation and begins in actual 100% good faith? We began a mission to take apart our American apartheid and process it and understand the crime scene that we're standing in, that we've built a nation on top of, and which still radiates as a crime scene that we reinstitute. That with our current day legalized forms of enslavement and with neo-enslavement that are woven through in new kinds of Jim Crow that's not so light, not so gentle. And that's really frozen in time in terms of we're looking at Project 2025 and the apocalypse that seems to promise of Nazi dictatorship and general harm. Even holding that off and sending the Ku Klux Klan to healthcare and accountability such that people can rejoin the table of human family and not be burdened by a cancer that has almost killed us all for hundreds of years. That we take a step forward together and help people who need to heal, and who need to be held accountable, if only to start to heal as well. It's almost killed every generation. We've barely survived it. I don't know that we've ever really thrived anything like we can, because we've always been terrified of apologizing for ourselves or our relatives or our ancestors, or our come before us relatives. But we have to process this, or it is going to take us apart. And the fact is that people who say enslavement wasn't so bad are engaging in terrorism. That the gaslight of, especially for white people, to say such things is simply abominable. There's no just cause for that kind of belligerence to humanity. And it's not just to people of color or black people. I mean, that's just absurd. We have to be able to reckon with the absolute horror of stuff when there's absolute horror there. Poisoned wool blankets is not a good moment. It's not a good series of moments. It's not a good part of history. But it's really important to know what that's about, and that that's an energy that still exists. Is difficult to dispute. If you listen to Marjorie Taylor Greene, or Laura Loomer, or Ron DeSantis. And the thing about Nazis and white supremacists and patriarchal terrorists is they don't go away. They have to be made to go away or stopped. And actually given boundaries of steel and given the opportunity to heal and find human family once again. But standing for the abolition of the KKK is not standing against white culture. It's standing for those human beings trapped in the terrorism around the KKK and whiteness. It's standing for accountability and processing how people like my ancestors made apocalypse happen for community after community. And it didn't have to be that way. That's conquest and war crime. That's communities acting like communities of Jeffrey Dahmer. It's a total insanity and seems to have like a lust and bloodbath that is abominable. And if we don't look that in the face and say, is that not evidence of cult of personality? Was Andrew Jackson not someone of that nature? But however it happens, the coaxing of hatred and greed to literally, mathematically, and legally dehumanize people. The question really isn't should we and can we afford reparations? The question is, how do we afford reparations? Because we can only afford the choice of giving reparations. That's the only path forward, in part because we've already begun to, and we began reparations by giving reparations to slave owners, in fact, at the end of the Civil War. With emancipation. That imagine if one of the horrific situations where someone is found held sexual captive in a basement somewhere in America, giving birth to babies of incest and locked up in a basement. In those terrible, abominable, horrific Jeffrey Dahmer level situations, do we ever, cut a nice check to the Jeffrey Dahmer figure and say, gosh, we're so sorry to take away your slave. So sorry to take away this person you've harmed. We're so sorry to take away your pet. I mean, this is a human being, but I know that you refer to her as that. And here's a little something for your trouble. Do we do that? Because that's what we did. We can't afford not to find a way to pay reparations to African Americans and to Native Americans, to indigenous people. Where does the word shanghaied come from? It comes from people shanghaied here, people kidnapped and brought here against their will. If we are the good nation, then what we do is we find it in ourselves to do these things, to process these things, so that instead of reinstituting with every single new generation the indoctrination of a matrix of white supremacist patriarchal terror that is invisible and not really there, but governs life and death, and outruns our mind's ability to calm down with its escalations and threats and terrorism. We are the reality distortion fielding, and we have the ability to figure out when we're being fiddled with. conditioning imagination. Think this ink into its frame. Radio science brain imagination might contain dopamine. Dopamine, I need play. I need activation of the main line of illumination. I rephrase, I update, I liaise. I pretend kindness was prearranged. I pretended it happened and envisioned a splendorous refrain. I pretend I remembered it from this morning. Now, right now, it did not wake me then, nor now in vain. Radio science brain connection, the project of one idea that needs a friend. This application across all matter and potential of all that's touched and is apprehended by my mental frame. Imagination aim. This ache came like cake in layers, not flakes. Imagination aid. Imagination aim. Mind made. Imagination aim. The mindness made. Aim to aid. Pretend the kindness came, pre-liaised. Pretend the active station was your braid. Your bay made safe and sane. A radio science brain. You are the dream awake. You can ease any ache. You are the brain awake. You are the adulatron. You are the renovation of love's imagination. Contain this container from pain that is unnecessary. Pain is sacred. It helps us detail and explain this world, our substrate, and frame our essays. But pain has been leveraged into Herculean punishment that's been arranged. Radio science brain, pretend the mindless knows your play, that you are play. Be game. Today and always, like kindness was the way all things became made. Radio science brain.